There are a lot of rumors that you know whose speech tonight on election integrity.
That's funny.
And voting machines will be rehashing the long debunked lies on the 2020 election fraud. And yesterday, his nominee for intelligence director.
That's funny.
Jay Clayton seems to echo these lies in his Senate Intel committee hearing. Take a look.
Do you deny that Joe Biden won the 2020 election?
Senator, I'm not an election denier. Joe Biden was certified as the president of the United States.
Who won the 2020 election?
As I said to you, we went through our processes, and Joe Biden became the president of the United States. And
That's not an answer to the question of who. I'm asking one more time.
Okay.
Who won the 2020
I'm not, this is like, I'm just not, I'm here to talk about my qualifications.
You refuse to answer a basic question about who won a presidential election, but you asked to lead America's intelligence community? Isn't it humiliating to be unable to answer this question, to have to indulge the president's delusions?
I want to marry him. Don't you want to marry him?
Yes.
He is your type, Joy.
I love him. Oh,
I don't get it. He is the president right now. He won. If there was tampering, do you actually think you'd still be president? Do you think if we could have avoided all of this, we would have done it?
Well, why are elections only stolen when he loses, is my question.
Understand.
Like, my thing is, Mr. President, focus on the election you won. You won in 2024. You won every battleground state. You won the popular vote. You need to focus on that because voters voted for you thinking you were going to address the cost of living. You were going to deal with the border. Nobody in America right now wants to relitigate the 2020 election. But something kind of fascinating is happening on Capitol Hill here.
Yes.
So I do think this Jay Clayton individual is going to get confirmed. A big part of it is because first, Donald Trump nominated this character named Bill Pulte, who had zero experience in national security. We talked about him at this table.
That seems to be his type.
People in the Senate were like, this is so bad. He's done this before where he throws out a name that is so offensive and then pulls it back and it makes the alternative look much better. You'll remember when Matt Gaetz was announced as Attorney General nominee.
Gosh, yeah.
Once then he pulled him back and said, actually, it'll be Pam Bondi. Everyone's like, fine, we'll vote for her. I think that's what he's doing here. Because in comparison, this guy looks like a dream.
What you're saying, though, Alyssa, is interesting because Trump hasn't questioned the 2016 election, and that he won that, and President Obama was in office, or the 2024 election when Biden was president. President Trump won, and President Biden was. The one he claims fraud in is the 2020 election. He was president.
That's a great point.
He was president at the time.
He oversaw the apparatus.
There's no logical reason to what he
Yes.
And I do find it rich that you can't admit what happened in that election because, Alyssa, you have shared the story of when you went into President Trump and he said, how did this guy beat me? Like, and everyone behind the scenes, when you talk to anybody that comes to this show off the record, you ask them, you're like, do people really believe this? He's like, not a single soul believes it was stolen. And this is the problem with trust in America. When you have politicians that we know are just lying and they know better, why would anyone trust you with anything bigger, let alone the intelligence agency?
But, you know, I think John Ossoff hit it right in the head, right? When he said, isn't this humiliating for you? Because what we have here is time and time again, people who work for Trump, it's like the emperor has no clothes on. There is nobody, which I know is a horrible image for you to have, but I'm sorry if anybody's having breakfast. But it's like nobody around Trump has to say to him, you are lying, you are insane, to push back like Bill Barr did during the first Trump administration. But I think what's going on here is a very strategic, systematic effort to make people lose faith in the elections, hoping that then that turns into people not showing up to vote. Because this is not happening in a vacuum, right? He's continued to claim voter fraud regarding 2020 for 6 years now. He fired the election commission members. He's the one who started the redistricting war when it came to congressional districts in Texas. He claims that he asked a prosecutor to do me a favor and look into the California election, which he basically claims are fraudulent. He ordered the U.S. Postal Service to stop delivering mail ballots in states that refuse to hand over their certified list. He's threatened threatened to withhold federal funding from some states that don't make changes to voting practices. He warned states that they would state officials, they would face arrest if they didn't remove non-citizens from the rolls. He's fixated on this SAVE Act, which Republican leaders in Congress have told him they do not have the votes to pass. And yesterday I was sitting down with Hunter Biden, and we were talking about the double standards. If Joe Biden had been claiming without any evidence for 6 years that he did not lose the election, men in white coats would have rushed the stage and put a straitjacket on him. But somehow we have gotten used to an insane precedent that either does not have the mental capacity or is lying or both. And that is not acceptable.
Well, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Again, if there was cheating, you would not be president right now. We would have voted Kamala Harris in. I don't understand what you don't get. You are the president, and you're not doing your job. You're not doing the job they elected you to do. So why would they want to bring you back? Why would anybody want to bring you back if you're not doing the job you got right now? Listen. All of these things that they're throwing at people and saying, they've gerrymandered this and, you don't have a shot. This is all a district for these. No, do not buy any of that. Your vote counts. Your vote counts. Get out. If you're voting for a Republican or you're voting for an independent, you're voting for a Democrat, doesn't matter. Get out and vote. Don't sit back. Get out and don't believe them, because voting in this country is your right. It is your right. It is your right.
I also am a little struck that this continues to be a priority because Trump is not running for re-election.
No.
He's termed out after this. So when I actually first heard that he was giving a national address this Thursday, I was like, oh, he's going to talk to us about the war in Iran that we're still in, the one where we have not had it communicated. How long are we going to be there? What's the end game? How many
I
votes are
can't
going?
wait to hear the speech tonight, because what I'm experiencing is that he is in a delusion. He has obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm not a shrink, but I play one on this show. It's about
You've diagnosed me with worse.
the election, Obama, and Greenland. These are his three. And the mass delusion around him is what we're all talking about here. These people who prop him up and say, yes, Your Highness, yes, Your Highness.
Yeah, but those same people
we're in a lot of trouble.
that said, yes, Your Highness, also told everyone to stop looking back at January 6th and to look forward. They're looking back further now than they were before, and yet they said there was nothing to see there.
But they forget, these people, that there was a noose on January 6th for Vice President Pence. And I'm not that they should be I'm not saying anybody should get killed, but it's symbolic of how they treat somebody who really wants to do the right thing.
So he's not on the ballot.
So these people are all going to be gone pretty soon,
But to Alyssa's point, he's not on the ballot this November, but he knows that if and when Democrats win the House and or Senate,
he's going to be
there
impeached.
will finally be. He's not going to be impeached. Don't say that. I don't believe that's going to happen.
Why not?
Because I don't think they have the votes, and they know that, and they're not going to spend the energy on that. But what there is going to be is accountability. What there is going to be is hearings. What there is going to be is ICE agents and the leaders of ICE brought in front of Congress and asked why they are executing people in the streets of America. What there is going to be is transparency and accountability and question asked about the Trump crypto grift and the way that they have monetized the presidency and made billions of dollars.
So this is why he wants to stop the election, and this is why he's doing everything he can.
That's what she said.
And for what it's worth, I actually do think that President Trump believes he won the 2020 election. I've waffled on this, but as time's gone on...
Did he change his story?
In reading Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan's reporting, I actually truly believe when you repeat something enough and you surround yourself by people who are affirming it, I really do think that he believes it.
It's called.
He believes it.
Yeah, and this is exactly how other countries have found themselves in the hands of dictators.
Yeah. That's right.
We have an opportunity to make that shift. It's up to us. We get what we vote for. We will get what we vote for.